This is Marky Mark Markellis from Soul Wizard Podcast, and you are listening to the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network.
Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people.
Right.
You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese in France, Mickey? What? Royale with cheese. Yeah, I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success?
Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, and I'm your host Dave.
And I am virus-free, John.
I am virus-free for now, I think.
You hope.
Uh-oh, is there something you need to tell us, JD?
No, I take my temperature like 10 times a day.
Oh my god.
Everybody's been doing that. I don't know anybody that, it wasn't an agreement. It's just everybody I talked to is like, oh, by the way, I took my temperature already. I'm like, yeah, I did too.
Are we that afraid? Are we really?
Well, considering my girlfriend is quarantined, yeah.
Uh-oh, what did you do?
I did nothing. It's just that she works at a place where her coworkers went to a Wawa around the corner for their coffee, and that Wawa, one of the workers there tested positive, and they had to close it down for a deep cleaning. So it's like, well, if they had it, they might have brought it in the office. If she works in the office, then she might have gotten it. And so now I can't see her for 2 weeks.
Okay.
But that's the problem, right? It's like you can be 5 degrees from somebody, and you just have to be the right 5 degrees.
That exactly. It has to be the right 5 degrees. That's the whole thing. Oh boy.
I'm bringing this show down with me, damn it.
Good. I'm glad. So that was your week, huh, John? Is that what you're telling us?
Pretty much. Well, yeah. I mean that and working from home, which again, I'm an introvert, so this is nothing for me.
Yes.
And, I am down. I'm down to 43 rolls of toilet paper.
You won't be.
I don't know how I'm going to survive.
You won't be able to trade those on the black market once it gets that bad,
Well, especially because I cracked the box. The value goes down once you crack the box open.
Yeah. How about you, JD? How are you holding up?
Oh, I'm fine as long as I stop reading stuff. Thursday was a little rough for me. I guess when you're a hypochondriac, you just kind of start using your imagination a little too much.
Oh, but this is your time, dude.
Oh my God! Do not encourage. This
is it. This is your big game.
Yeah.
Oh man, no. You should stop reading up on this. You should stop looking. Years ago when I was younger, and I first started going to my doctor that I go to now, he, I don't remember, it's when I got diagnosed with hypertension, and he was like, so I'm gonna give you some advice. Do not look anything up on the internet. He's like, just listen to my advice. If you have questions, ask them, but, you're gonna find a lot of information, misleading information in a lot of places. Just, ignore most of it. And, cause I used to be like that, where I would look stuff up and get like, oh, do I have this? Oh, do I need to worry about this? So I get it, but don't do it. Are you staying home and getting house painted?
Oh yeah. House is getting painted, not going anywhere. I don't think I've gotten in my car since like Tuesday.
You should be fine.
I'm fine, man. Like I said, I'm fine. Like what bugs me now is just being a dad of a little kid and all this, and I'm like doing the whole, what do we have? Like what's going to happen? Like what kind of world do we have for him? I don't know. I don't have answers to anything.
You're going to be fine. Just look back to 1918. Yeah, it was horrible, but afterwards, things got back to normal.
It did. And this is what problem when you read some of these. It did take a while. But it's just like, you read some of these things, like some of the harder science journals, like, and they're like, oh, it's all worst case scenario shit, and like, it gets on you a little bit.
I mean, that's the whole thing that people need to remember is like, when they talk about these things, that's worst case scenario, and it's like, we're hoping that doesn't happen. And
it's only if it's really mismanaged and
you know,
it was mismanaged at first. Well, it's gotten better. Like, you just look at like pictures of the streets. Like, people are taking the social distancing thing seriously through most of the country.
True.
Like, you look at California. California was in a real bad spot a couple weeks ago, and their curve hasn't flattened, so to say. But I mean, like, it's in a better spot than say New York. You know, in places that haven't taken it as seriously, like New Orleans, are starting to get beat up a little bit. So,
and Chicago, right? Or wasn't Chicago on there? Or
Chicago's not horrible, but we're not great.
I will say this in New York's defense: it is so many people crammed into such a small landmass.
It's the perfect place. It's a hub for international travel.
Right.
Imagine being stuck on a cruise ship that's an island in New York Harbor. You know, like, that's what Manhattan is. And it's bad, really bad.
It's what's unfortunate is, like, you know, you read about these things and they say the earliest, like, would probably peak in a month, which is scary to think about. Mm. And then, like, by the end of May, we're kind of back to where we are now, but hopefully a little bit better because we've done this. But then the fears of what happens when we start lifting. Does it go right back up or what? Because who knows? Like, until we have a real solution.
Well, the point is, like, if they have enough testing, if they finally give us the testing they promised us a month and a half ago, if they have the testing, then they can start lifting, because then it's easy to track where it is. You know, because that's what happened with the Ebola scare. Was we had tests like right as it happened. So they found the one guy that came to the U.S. before he could spread Ebola here, and they quarantined him, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, but they did not.
Right, but yeah, I mean, part of the problem with that too is that was an existing thing. Where this was
an existing thing too. They knew they had about the same amount of time to get ramped up, but they had a task force and, you know, all this stuff ready, and they jumped on it as soon as it started to happen. We
didn't get ahead of it. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
South Korea did. They did a pretty good job. Like, it was pretty bad for them a couple weeks ago, and it seems to have trickled down. Japan never seemed to get bad, but I don't know if I believe the numbers coming out of Japan personally, because they had a lot to lose with the Olympics, which they did lose. Yeah. So I don't know, man. It just I'm not gonna lie, it spooks me out a little bit. I hope it gets better.
It will.
Yeah. It will.
So if you came to this podcast for an uplifting fun adventure,
you fucked up, because I'm on the show.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, I'm right there with you. You know, I'll bet you I've watched more than you have.
Oh, I guarantee it. I don't watch a lot of the TV, but, you know, I try to read as much as I can to get news, and that can be worse sometimes.
Paranoia is just a heightened sense of self-preservation.
Yeah. You're trying to preserve someone else's life. It's even scarier.
Unfortunately, the fight or flight is genetic encoding in your system. So yes, when you're there's nothing you can do about it.
Apparently, it kicked in for JD when he was watching Bloodshot too.
Apparently,
that self-preservation switch just got flipped.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, we'll get to that. Let's see. And I did nothing this week either. You know, I exercised a little bit. The weather was kind of crappy.
You walked outside a lot?
I went on a couple walks this week. Saturday it basically rained all day.
Yeah.
You know, we got a break yesterday, and then I was going to go for a walk just as it started thunderstorming here today, and then I had to get ready for this craziness. So, you know. But I will say that I have not gained. I have maintained. I've lost actually a tiny bit this week.
Good for you.
So
excellent.
So yes, I'm hoping that the next time I see you, John, you won't recognize me.
I haven't seen you in like
3 months.
Almost 3 months. It feels like years now. Like every day feels like weeks.
6 months. I know. We will survive. We will get past this. You know what's helping some people survive? Going on social media and participating in Nerd Madness.
Oh, no, that's just reminding them that there are things that are worse than the coronavirus.
So, we did our second matchups this week. I think I'm going to maybe speed things up a little bit this coming week and try to get all of round 1 finished for the next episode. But as of now, we have the second matchups for round 1, and starting off with the movie matchups, we ended up with Avengers Endgame versus Captain Marvel. And, do you guys have before you look at the results, do you have a guess on who took that one?
Got a hunch.
It was another bloodbath. Avengers Endgame at 88% and Captain Marvel at 11.9. So,
damn. That's how first round matchups work, man.
Yeah.
We got House of D sending a tweet saying bodies broken in half with, who is that, by the way, where it says, my God?
That's Jim Ross.
Oh, okay.
He's a wrestling commentator. He's got that thick Oklahoma accent.
Ah, okay. I knew
so when he says, by God, it comes up, by God! Yeah.
I knew it had something to do with wrestling. That's why you thumbs up it real quick.
With a smile.
Yes. He also said, looks like another bloodbath. The Gorilla Bane podcast said, I'd rather watch the extended cut of Green Lantern than Captain Marvel any day.
Wait, no.
Wasn't that? No. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah. That guy needs a priority rearrangement.
Random Randy Savage said, disagree, but still Endgame over Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Ziggy said, Endgame always. And David Essential Sorensen said, dude, bad matchup. You're running an intro movie against the end 10 years of movies.
Yeah, it's a seeded tournament.
True. But not only that, like, I don't know. You're also talking about it's the same franchise. It's introducing a new character after they have 10 years of experience, you know.
It's a seeded tournament, brother.
Yeah.
Take it up with the committee. I am the committee.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Yes, you are the committee.
Double birds.
So that leaves us with our next two matchups in round 1 will be It 2 versus John Wick and Midsommar versus Far From Home. Midsommar. I kind of have a feeling I have a prediction for those. I believe probably Far From Home and John Wick, but that's just my thoughts.
I would agree with those.
Which means then round 2 matchup number 1 will be Joker versus Endgame.
That's interesting.
It is.
That's a good matchup, actually. It's going to be two different types of fans that are going to be vying for that one.
Right, exactly.
Happy people and sociopaths.
Well,
sounds like our fans.
Yes. There's our Venn diagram.
I was going to say art couture versus, the action movie segment, but yeah, sure, why not?
Happy sociopaths. All right. So let's move on to TV's second matchup for this round. We had, of course, Black Lightning versus Umbrella Academy. I don't agree with this result. We had Black Lightning at 33.3% and Umbrella Academy taking 66.7%. I don't think Black Lightning gets enough love.
That's an upset.
Yeah, because Black Lightning is very, very well written. Although, it might be this season. This season wasn't as good as the last two. So maybe that's it. But the characterizations are still much better well written than anything else that I've seen.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel there's more depth to Black Lightning than some of the other CW shows as well.
Yes. Oh, yes. Most definitely.
But yeah, sorry, Black Lightning. Crazy Ant Media said, I feel like Black Lightning is underrated. Yep. I definitely agree with that. So what does that leave us with? That leaves us with our upcoming round 1 matches would be Witcher versus Titans and Watchmen versus The Boys. And round 2 will kick off with Mandalorian versus Umbrella Academy. I know where that's going, but John, we have anime next.
Okay.
Your all-time favorite topic. I'll let you take it.
Okay. Inspector versus Radiant. And Inspector, the new kid on the block, took it with 56.5% versus 43.5% for Radiant, which was season 2. I can kind of see this, though the Radiant second season was so much better than the first season, and I don't know, but Inspector is very different. It's got a much different feel, a much different storyline. The characters are very unique, so I'll give it.
So I have a question, John.
Yeah.
Are these? I'm not as big of an anime fan as you, obviously. Were these more rare animes?
Radiant, not so much. Inspector, though, is... I mean, people know what Radiant is. It's made the rounds. The first season was out for quite a while before they came up with a second season. Inspector is kind of brand new, though I think the manga has been out for a while. Okay. And, yeah, Inspector is unique. So, and the characters seem to be interesting. The storyline is very well written. A lot of it is kind of mystery / logic based, and it's, I don't know, you'd have to see an episode in order to understand it. It's very good. So, and the animation is actually quite good too. So I can kind of see it beating out Radiant season 2.
Yeah, and the only reason I mention it is because we didn't get a lot of votes for this one as compared to our other polls, and they are like Inspector's brand new. The first season is still playing out. Radiant's been out for a while, but the first season wasn't that great, so it didn't get as much of a following. So they're kind of like B tier at this point. Inspector might, graduate to like A tier the end of this season if it does well. All right. So yeah, I mean that's interesting. Again, it was very close, compared to some of our other ones, our matchups round one. Which leaves, what do we got here for upcoming round 1? Castlevania versus Dragon Prince.
No. Well, that's okay.
And Darwin's Game versus Bookworm.
Yeah. Darwin's Game versus Bookworm, that's going to be interesting. Again, that'll be 2 different fan bases vying for that. And
then round 2 starts off with Demon Slayer versus Inspector. So finally we got comics match 2. This is definitely people voted for what they knew, because these were both not mainstream books, meaning they weren't from one of the big 2. One was from Valiant, the other was from Titan Comics, and of course it was Toya Harda, The Life and Death of Toya Harda, and Blade Runner 2019. And just on name recognition alone, Blade Runner takes it at 83.3 to 16.7%. And yeah, both of these polls had no comments on them either. So yeah, I believe people voted. That got a lot more votes than the anime one, but it was just like, oh, I've heard of Blade Runner. So there you go. Which leaves us round 1, Batman Damned versus Absolute Carnage, and Conan versus Power of X. And round 2 will kick off with House of X versus Blade Runner 2019. I think we all know where that's going to go.
Yeah.
On that note, let's hear House of D tell us where you guys can find more superhero speak and how to follow our social media madness.
Enjoying the show? Want to be part of social media madness? Make sure you are following superheroespeak.com, where you can find all of the show's social media links at the top of the page. While you're there, you can check out old episodes of the podcast as well as some other great content. Check the site often, because we are posting some great comic reviews as well as comic book and movie news content every day. Make sure and follow us on Twitter at SuperheroSpeak. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Geek World All-Stars Podcast Network. You can follow them at @stars_geek. Geek World All-Star Podcast Network include great programs such as the Pop Prison Power Podcast, Cult 45, So Wizard, Fans on Patrol, the Gorilla Brain Podcast, and of course, Superhero Speak. Search for hashtag GWAllstars. You will not be disappointed. Now, it's back to Dave and the boys on Superhero Speak.
All right. Thank you, Donald. And on that note, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
All right, guys, we're back. We have a few quick news articles we'd like to talk about this week before we get into our main topic. JD might fall asleep again on us.
Huh? What?
So we'll have to start off with Wonder Woman 1984 in connection to our article that we talked about last week. It has come out and said it has officially been delayed till August 14th, I believe was the date.
Wow.
So yeah, August 14th. So that's that instead of June 5th. So that will be the official release date of Wonder Woman 1984. So hopefully movie theaters will be open back by then and we can all watch this on the big screen.
Hopefully we'll all survive. But,
Stop it. You're going to make JD cry.
No, I'll probably make him go to sleep, but,
That's possible.
Now, related to this is something I forgot to include this week, but I wanted to get everyone's take on this. There's a rumor, this is a complete rumor, that Marvel...
Is this our rumor or somebody else's rumor?
Somebody else's rumor. This was on a website, but they were taking it from a tweet of somebody.
Not Cosmic Book News?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Cosmic Book News or We Got This Covered. So it was a more legitimate site. But the rumor is that Disney is considering releasing Black Widow and Mulan on Disney Plus.
Now, as I understand it, if they do that, they are losing 2 full tiers of income, right? Because they release in the theaters and they get the box office receipts. Then they release it to, say, China and they get a second set of box office receipts. Then they release it on DVD. Then they release it on demand. Then and each subsequent release is a full more bucket of money.
Right.
So if they go straight to here, they're skipping a couple, right?
I think this is just a rumor. I think what they'll do is probably what we saw this past week, and they'll go to Amazon Prime and all those sites first for higher money, and then it'll go to its subscription service relatively soon.
Yeah, that was my thought too, is that even if the fact that the movie theaters are closed makes the contract with the theaters null and void and they don't want to renegotiate it, they probably still have contracts for digital distribution with all these other platforms,
Mm-hmm.
So
they set those up way early.
I'm sure they do. That's what I'm saying. So if you're Comcast and or Redbox or Amazon and you're expecting to get this movie to rent to people or sell to people for $20 a pop, $5 to rent, $20 to buy or whatever, and then they turn around and go, oh, you know what? No, we're just going to give it free on our platform. I don't think you can just do that.
Yeah. Not unless you don't plan on making a lot of money. I mean, I don't see how this makes any sense contract-wise, business-wise, anything.
The only thing that backs this up is that they put Onward on Disney Plus right away.
Yeah, Onward is not on Disney Plus. I went to look for it. We watched it last night.
Oh.
We watched Onward on Amazon Prime.
Oh, so it's the same kind of deal as Bloodshot.
Correct.
Okay.
So unless someone's listening and telling me I'm wrong, because I looked on Disney Plus last night. We watched Onward before I tried to watch Bloodshot. And no, only on Disney Plus. Onward, great movie, by the way.
Well, maybe we should have chose that one. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I agree. I think it's just pure rumor. I think if they forego the movie theater, it's going to be on the other platforms first to buy and then end up in Disney Plus by the end of the summer. But who knows? I mean, they might still want to put this in the theater. I mean, I don't know about Mulan, but like, Black Widow's a definite, like, they're gonna make their money back plus, when they put it in the theater.
And there's a difference between, like, buying it on a platform like Comcast or Amazon. I mean, it's okay if you, like, buy it on Amazon, I guess, because Amazon's gonna be around for a long time. But, like, if you buy it from Verizon or Comcast or something like that, if you switch providers, it's gone.
Yeah, I know. You guys are bastards. I mean, yes.
Yeah, cheers. But yes, we are. But yeah, well, that's the thing, though, right? This is like new territory. I mean, the options have always been there, and they've always gotten a bunch of people that would, quote unquote, buy it. But this is why I own like a ton of Blu-ray and 4K discs, is because I like owning what I have and not having to worry that if I, end my contract with one company, I'm going to lose my entire library of movies.
Yes,
I guess we'll see how it works.
There's a definite argument that if you own the physical copy of something, if something happens to the platform that you bought it through, it doesn't matter. But there's also the argument of, I hate owning media anymore.
True. Unless you can rip it and then add it to your collection on your server. But I don't know anything about that at all. Really.
Yeah, we all need our own personal clouds that we can put our movies on. But I'm just being crazy. So, speaking of crazy, I saw this and I was like, this sounds like a really good idea. Ryan Reynolds apparently is in talks to produce and star in the live-action adaptation of the 80s video game Dragon's Lair.
And how the hell's that going to work?
What is that?
They already made a Dragon's Lair. It's called Dungeons and Dragons, the first movie, and it sucked.
I thought Dungeons and Dragons was an adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, which was nothing like the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon that I watched as a kid.
No, it wasn't. If it was, the live-action movie would have been much better. But at least the storyline, well, at least there would have been a storyline. But this is, I don't see what's the storyline? I mean, how are they going to make this work? They barely made something like Battleship work, and there was more to work with there than there was here.
I mean, you can take the storyline from the game and expand upon it, I think, I give a love story with the princess and I don't remember the main character.
But then it becomes just it's just a movie set in the Middle Ages.
So I don't remember Dragon's Lair other than when I was little, looking at the machine when I used to visit arcades. I was little. I remember this video game that looked like a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that the whole appeal to Dragon's Lair? Was that it's the one video game of the era that looked like a cartoon?
And the follow-up, Space Ace. There were two.
Okay, I don't remember that one at all. But don't we lose anything interesting about it by just making it a movie? Like, unless you're doing a CGI cartoon, like, and keeping true to the designs, like, well, you're right. It just becomes another dragon movie. Like, I don't get it.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I have no idea how they make it work. I mean,
I thought to me, the appeal was how advanced it was at the time. When the games next to it were still lines and dots, and this actually looked like something.
But it didn't. I mean, to be fair, the whole game was basically you were taking a joystick and moving it left and right. And
right.
That was it.
It basically was a timing thing when it, and making sure you pushed the right choice and the right time. That's all. Yeah. There wasn't a skill to playing it. It just looked cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there was skill. You just had to memorize it. I mean, because nobody made it through the first time because you didn't know where you were going. But that's the thing. But there was no real compelling. Nobody remembers it because of the compelling storyline or the characterizations.
Right.
Because there wasn't any.
No, there wasn't. That's true. I don't know.
Except for the funny faces he made when he died.
Right.
And he died a lot. It was like worse. There were more fatalities in there than any Mortal Kombat. It was, I don't know. It was horrible.
I don't know. I think if they add a comedy aspect to it, it could be fun. And besides, we're not talking about a blockbuster movie here. We're talking about something that's going to go right to Netflix, you know?
Sure.
So I'm not expecting Shakespeare. I'm expecting, you know, something silly to distract me from the news for an hour and a half.
It's really all we ask for in this day and age.
Yeah.
It's true.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how this pans out. I do think Ryan Reynolds is a good choice to star into something like this.
Well, it's the only choice. I mean, I can't imagine them hiring anybody else and thinking they had a chance.
Jim Carrey. Well,
no.
Older Jim Carrey, like younger Jim Carrey from years ago.
Yeah, but he doesn't exist.
I don't know. Did you see Sonic yet?
Oh, yeah, that's true. And it was a callback to his earlier.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this one. Like, they had said they were going to do this like a year ago, and then it fell apart, and now they're talking about doing it again. So we'll see what happens. And then finally, I don't know how I feel about this news. The CW has officially announced when all of their shows are going to come back that have been on hiatus because of something that's going on in the world.
Already?
So, Batwoman will return April 26th, Flash on April 21st, Riverdale the 15th, Supergirl April 26th, Roswell on March 30th, Legends on April 21st, and that's anyone.
Did you say Roswell or Riverdale?
Roswell. I did say Riverdale as well. I'm trying to think of stuff that people might care about.
Nobody cares about Roswell.
Well, you know, or no, I don't think of any of our audience cares about Dynasty or Charmed. Or Kelly Keene, which I don't even know what that is. Katie Keene. Okay.
And it's another Riverdale spinoff, I think.
So my understanding is they had stopped production because an idea. Oh wait, you know what wasn't in this list? What you call it? The show that's ending this season that everyone loves, Supernatural.
It show's been out forever.
Yeah, Supernatural was left off the list. Interesting. This is their final season. Now they stopped production with only 2 episodes left to film.
Oh, jeez, criminy. That's horrible.
So my guess is that the shows that are going to start airing then are ones that were already filmed, and they're hoping that they'll be able to get back to production in time to catch up. So there won't be a big break in the show. Any more big breaks. That's my guess. So
sounds legit.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. You know, we'll have to see, you know, I guess, I know JD, you don't watch a lot of TV, or at least you don't watch it in real time. John, I know you only watch a few shows like that too. So for the average person who watches TV, when you're into a show like this and then the momentum gets broken, like, what does that mean for a show? Is it going to hurt their ratings? Do you think people will stop watching, or do you think most people binge now anyway, so it doesn't matter?
I think most people binge now, so it doesn't matter. But I think we're in a different world now. Like, I think if you had asked me 6 weeks ago, the answer is different. Now people want to watch something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the worst part, right? You want to watch something because you're bored out of your freaking mind, and
pretty much
everything stops production on top of everything else. You know, the only people willing to keep going is the news. Anyway, yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully things will get back to normal sooner rather than later. But we don't know yet. All right, guys. So now to the main topic of the evening, of the week. We had decided we were going to watch a movie since we were all home with nothing to do, and we could watch a movie that was supposed to be in the theater. And some of us liked it, some of us didn't like it, and some of us fell asleep.
Apparently.
So, the movie was Bloodshot. I normally say what, like, the ratings and all were, but since it was only in the theater for a week, I don't think those numbers are available or mean anything. So we'll go around real quick. First impressions, non-spoilers. Contribute what you can. JD, you can go first.
The first 15 minutes were like a late 90s, early 2000s action cliche, and I passed out. I was out. I felt, to be fair, I started this movie at 11 o'clock at night. I probably shouldn't have. I couldn't talk my wife into watching it. She decided to go with Onward earlier. So by the time I got the kid to bed and had time to sit down and watch this movie, it did nothing for me in the beginning, and I passed out and fell asleep on the couch. So I'm going to be absolutely useless, but what I saw did absolutely nothing for me.
Okay. John, your initial impression?
It was okay. I'd fold laundry to it. That's about right, JD? I mean,
Yeah, it's fair.
if it wasn't too late, but you want to stay busy while it's playing. So, yeah.
No, I agree.
All right. Oh, pardon me. I will say, I will third it. That it wasn't bad. Like, some people are trashing this movie. Like, our friends over at So Wizard, like, basically said it was the worst thing ever. I don't really agree with that. I have seen much worse movies. Some of them Joey DiCarlo over there likes.
29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the YouTube reviewers kind of panned it too. Basically saying much the same as you, JD.
But, so we're going to get into spoilers now. If you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, then I guess you could turn the podcast off or come back later after you watch it. But I kind of feel like, because I want to get into something right away, and I think, it kind of sums the movie up in a good way. The movie itself wasn't terrible. It suffered from pacing and editing issues, in my opinion. I think if they flipped some things around, it would have been a much better movie. Like if it had a cold opening with him waking up and then revealing all of that stuff, all those things with his wife and how he died as memories of while he was training or whatever, it would have been better, right? Because like even my son watched it with me and he was like, why did we waste 10 minutes with all of that in the beginning of the movie?
That's how Robert Venditti did the comic book when he was running the Bloodshot reboot for Valiant. Yeah. That's how he did it. Like Bloodshot just exists, and then the memories start pouring back to him.
Right, and that grabs your attention right away. Like that's like, oh, what's going on? Like this guy wakes up, he finds out he was just dead, blah 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 blah, and that sucks you in. Where now you're like watching some guy go on a mission, disobey orders, and then hang out with his girlfriend or wife for a little bit, and then, apparently you see him get killed. But I don't know.
Right.
It felt like even my son said, like, like I said, he's like, I didn't understand that, JD, you can't answer this question.
Nope.
But I think John can. What's something that you liked in the movie?
I don't like. I like the storyline, but that comes from the comic. That's not movie specific. And you're right, they could have done that better in the movie. I don't know. If anything, I have to say I like Vin Diesel's mumble groan or his grumble. he just grumbles everything, right? So it's like, I know he's like in this he's a really cheesy action hero, but I kind of like that, I like seeing a hero take the easy button the whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, like that was one of the things I've seen this movie get panned for was it starring Vin Diesel, but I kind of
it's safe.
I also kind of feel like that's what they were going for. They were going for the straightforward action, cliche action hero. Like that's what they wanted in the character, and if you get Vin Diesel, that's what you get. Yeah. Every movie that he's in, that's who he is. So
pretty much.
So yeah, like I don't think you can fault Vin Diesel for being Vin Diesel.
Right? They got what they wanted.
Right.
The question is should they have wanted that?
I don't know. I mean, again, for the way the story was told, it worked. If they went for something more in depth, I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah, I don't know. Like Bloodshot, it's my least favorite of the Valiant properties.
Yeah.
And they have good stuff too, like Archer and Armstrong. It's really fun, and Quantum and Woody is really zany, and Shadow Man is cool. You could do some really awesome like supernatural stuff with it. Like the fact that they went out with Bloodshot right away, it seemed like such a safe, boring pick for a character that's not really known for being all that interesting. Even Exo Man of War is a way more interesting character. Like they went trying to. If this was 1997, I would get it. But I mean, audiences just aren't into that kind of, mindless super soldier character anymore.
If they had updated it a bit, it might have been worth it.
Yeah, but they didn't even in the comics. Like, Bloodshot's still Bloodshot. Like,
yeah.
I think, though, like, it feels like Valiant tries to push Bloodshot as their flagship character.
They shouldn't, but I think you're right.
And that's number one. Number two, I think if they had gone with Exo Man of War, it would have been panned as being an Iron Man ripoff.
That's true.
So, yeah, like, you kind of had to start with Bloodshot, if they're going to build a quote-unquote Valiant universe from this.
I would have started with Archer and Armstrong, personally.
Not Exo Man of War?
No, I think Archer and Armstrong's the best. They're the best property.
Yeah.
I don't know that one. I didn't read them back then, but I do remember Exo Man of War. I think I have a few copies down in my basement.
That's what I'm saying. I think their Bloodshot and Exo Man of War are their two most recognizable characters.
Yeah. I think if you want to go the action hero thing, I think Eternal Warrior is even a better character than Bloodshot. I mean, at least Eternal Warrior, you can have someone that's like a Highlander type of thing.
Right.
And we haven't seen that in a while. Like, there's just nothing about Bloodshot that especially in this post-Marvel world where superheroes are cool more because of their personality than anything.
Well, and exactly, what is Bloodshot other than Wolverine, who's given his powers through technology?
Without the charisma.
Exactly.
Like, Wolverine has this pathos to him. Like, Bloodshot's never had that. Like, they try, but it's not there. And I'm not a Vin Diesel hater, but I mean, like, I don't know. Like, did you think Riddick was that good that you wanted, like, you know what I'm saying?
No, but
Riddick was like candy. I mean, that was just.
But a lot of people liked it, though.
Yeah, well, they didn't like it as much as they like Pitch Black, which was
Pitch Black different. That's weird. Pitch Black is an action adventure sequel to a space horror film.
What you mean? Yeah, the other way around.
Yeah, Chronicles of Riddick is a sequel to a space horror film. Like, very rarely do you just transfer genres the way it does. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't. And Pitch Black's cool, and Chronicles of Riddick's dumb. So, and even Pitch Black's dumb, but fun dumb.
So one of the things that you probably didn't see because you fell asleep. The thing that I liked the most in the movie was the character of Wilford Wiggins. Okay. So he is basically Bloodshot's man in the chair by the time you get to the end of the movie. And I know it's a superhero cliche that's been done over and over again, but he was the best character in the whole movie, and they don't introduce him till like more than halfway through the movie.
Yeah, he was good. He was fun.
Yeah, he starts making the movie fun, and it's like, if you had brought him in from the beginning of the movie, this would have been a much better movie.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I think that they went with the Iron Man route of doing the origin, like in real time, when they should have just laid out, like you guys looked at it in the comics, like you're piecing it together. Memento style, if you will. Right.
Because that's the other thing. So going back to like pacing and issues is like, we spent all this time with, I can't even think, Ray Garrison, Bloodshot in the beginning of the movie, establishing him as a soldier who's good at his job but doesn't necessarily listen to orders. He has a wife that he quote unquote loves, and something happens, they get kidnapped and he gets killed. So you're establishing this whole, like you said, in order origin story. And then like he wakes up and like right away, boom, he has a flashback. He decides to go after the guy that killed him and his wife and kills him. And then this happens again because you find out like, they're actually manipulating him and using him as a weapon to kill these people.
Okay. You know what you just described? For real, do you know what movie you just described? I think I figured out my issue with this. You just told me RoboCop.
Essentially, yes.
But it's not as good as RoboCop,
Right. And the thing is, what I was getting at is then once he figures out that he's being manipulated and used this way, all of a sudden now he's going against his teammates, who you don't see his teammates do anything in the first half of the movie. Now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe they're just as good as him at combat, and they have this big battle for the second half of the movie.
See, that's the thing. You never feel like given their respective powers, you never feel like any of them is going to give him any trouble. I mean, he's literally, well, first off, they rushed it. Like, he's got nanites that heal him. That's great. So, when did he learn to be able to ignore all of the instincts that he's had as a military man that were ingrained in him in all of his training to just walk into a hail of bullets?
Exactly. Or, like, there's a lot of shortcuts that don't make sense in this movie. That's one of them, right? Like, as soon as he realizes he's indestructible, he runs into bullets. And it's like, wait, no.
Well,
you still have instinct.
Yeah. Most of us would, like, be hiding around a corner until we realized, oh, wait, I forgot.
he leaves to kill the first guy. He's in the car. They send a radio signal to him, basically, so they can talk to him. And since the nanites are in his blood, they can talk to him. They explain that. But then all of a sudden, he figures out how to connect back to the server and get all the information he needs to hunt this guy down.
Yeah, but they didn't even show him reacting to finding that ability. It's just, hey, what is he doing? Oh, he's connecting to the internet.
Yeah, like, you don't even see him. They show them looking at the computer screen and him, like, accessing data and stuff. And it's just like, really? Like, that they took a big shortcut there. They didn't explain at all him trying to figure it out or anything. Like, there's no character development at all.
We're not selling this to you, are we, JD?
No, I'm never going to watch it. It's $20 on the train.
But like I said,
you've sacrificed it to the gods of the comic book movies. You're keeping this train running until we get to the Marvel's next stage.
Do you know how much money I'm not spending right now by staying in the house?
Oh, true.
I do think that once he figures out what's going on and Wiggins comes in, it becomes a somewhat better movie, you know? But it's still not a great movie. And again, like, simple little things like, again, having him wake up and then show him training and going on missions with these other soldiers to establish relationships and have him have flashbacks, then to go, you know, and the whole thing is like, why did they do it one at a time? You know, like, they had him think this one guy killed him, they reset it, and then they changed the memory so now it's the next person on the list. And, you know, they run the entire script exactly the way it is again, right? And in the movie, when he finds out that his wife is actually still alive, and he goes and tracks her down, he finds out that, well, they're divorced. They're not together anymore.
For 5 years.
And she hasn't even seen him in 5 years, giving you the impression that this has been going on for 5 years. But yet, they only showed that he killed 5 people, and like they were doing it boom, boom, boom. So why did it take 5 years?
Yeah, there's a giant gap in the storytelling there.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's bad in a lot of ways. And it's a shame because, again, it should be setting up a possibility of another comic book universe. But, you know, and they went big, you know. I mean, they got one of the biggest action stars they could to star in it.
Yeah, I think this whole thing, it's very 2007 to me. Like, it's like an old idea with an actor who's kinda not, I don't know, I guess the Fast and the Furious movies are still big, but I mean, like, you can't say Vin Diesel's at the peak of his drawing power, you know?
Yeah. Well, he's also not at the peak of his physical ability, I mean.
No, I mean, it's like they cast The Rock, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're, like Dave said, if you're even thinking of making this into, like, another comic book universe, you gotta hire somebody a little bit younger than that.
Well, I don't know. Marvel hired Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I think you gotta hire someone more charismatic. Like, someone that people want to, like...
And can understand when they talk?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like, I just don't understand, like, Vin Diesel doesn't, like... He's not really the draw. Like, the Fast and the Furious movies are the draw because of, like... One, the cars are cool and people dig that. And two, it's, like, the character, like, it's group setting. You know? Where... The stuff where he's kind of leaned into to be the star, like your Chronicles of Riddick's, like your Triple X's, if you will, hasn't been as successful. So I think this movie really it feels like something of a bygone era, even the way it was produced. You know?
Yeah, I think you're right there. It in some ways it does feel like your early day action comic book movies, where they kind of, and it's kind of one of my issues with the DCEU. it's this idea of like, oh, it's a comic book movie. Comic book fans are just going to go see it.
Yeah.
It's got Batman in it. It doesn't matter if it's a good story. It's got Batman in it. They take, like I said, they take a lot of action movie shortcuts that don't make sense, and then, and some, storytelling shortcuts that just don't work, and there's like then it ends up feeling like there's no character development. So, yeah, like, cause you don't care about the guys when he's fighting at the end. You have no, like, interest in them at all.
Basically, yeah.
And that's a shame, because you don't, like, you put caricature ahead of character, and that's what happens. It's a shame.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah, that's true. I mean, because then you have, what, is it the KT, who becomes the, I guess, new love interest, after his wife, and, like...
Can Bloodshot even have a love interest? I thought he was, like, basically a cyborg.
Well, no, he's just got a lot of nanites, that's all. Or is that like I said, I don't remember reading him when I was young, so...
Well, how do you say her name? Isa Gonzalez, who plays KT in the movie, like, I felt like they could have gotten a better performance from her if she had a better lead to work against. Well, that's another thing too, right? Like, the guy essentially died and was brought back to life, and they don't show him dealing with that at all.
Which is a shame. Man, that makes me so mad.
You just keep pointing things out to him, Dave. It's like,
But that's the shame of it. It's like, because you need human moments. Like, Iron Man sets the template. Any movie that doesn't try to learn from what Jon Favreau did in Iron Man is a mistake, because it's all about Tony Stark. It's not about all the cool stuff that happens around him. We love Tony Stark. Actually, we love Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
He defines what Tony Stark is. And, like, yeah, the story isn't what happens around the story. The story is the character's journey. And that's a great story to tell. Hey, I used to be dead. Now I'm Frankenstein. How do I survive with this? What do I do? And they don't do that.
How do I deal with my wife not being my wife anymore?
Right. The life I thought I knew was a lie, and the life that I thought that I knew was also a lie. What is truth? What is reality?
Yep. Yeah, there's no real thought to that. Like, even when he realizes, he was manipulated all this time, and it was like, my wife is still alive, like, he doesn't question, well, then what really happened with my wife? He just goes and looks for her.
Which makes sense, but you gotta deal with, I get that, but you gotta deal with the aftermath.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta if that happens to you, you're gonna question what is reality, which they did in RoboCop, for God's sakes.
In the original, in the reboot, it was kind of...
I didn't see the reboot.
The reboot, well, good. You don't want to see the reboot either. It's worse than this.
That's what I heard.
And I wonder, though, was there a better story, but this was the best they could get once they got the cast together and once they got, the budget?
But it doesn't cost you money to write a script.
No, that's true, but it costs you money to get an actor who can portray emotion.
Well, then you struggle with. That's the trade-off. Is do you want him to get out of his comfort zone a little bit? And I disagree. I think Vin Diesel can act. I think that he falls into the Vin Diesel persona more so than he's comfortable, than he's challenged with often. Like, because he's done stuff like Boiler Room. He's acting in that. Like, he can act. Like, but again, he's Riddick. Like, they got him to play Riddick all the time. Like, all Dominic Toretto is just freaking Riddick with a car.
Yeah, no, and I can agree with that, because I think you get more emotion from him saying, I am Groot.
You kind of,
at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy than you did in the entire 2 hours of Bloodshot.
Granted.
Okay, well, that comes down to some direction, too, then. Who directed this movie?
It's a first-time director. I can't think of his name.
Okay, that's the...
Well, he was first-time director, but he actually... Well, he did... I forget what he did. He did something for some of the Marvel movies.
David S.F. Wilson. I don't know who that is. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia entry. That's a mistake. You should have... If you are banking on launching a franchise, you have to You have to do what Marvel did and not what Universal did with the monster movies. You know, you got to hire people who know what they're doing.
True.
This is not the time to give someone a shot.
A bloodshot.
Oh, I did. Nice job. I set you up expected.
Yeah, no. That is totally. I totally agree. Like somebody that has a somewhat proven track record, who loves the character, loves the material, and is willing to go out and say, "This guy is Bloodshot. Like I believe in him. He could be the character." Even though he had a drug problem in the past, i.e. Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau for Iron Man, I believe this is the guy to be Iron Man. You know, like you needed something like that to launch a universe.
Mm.
And Jon Favreau had spent a good decade directing movies. And he made Elf, and it made money. Like, he didn't have a smash hit. Well, actually, Elf is pretty much a hit. Like, he had done stuff. Like, I don't think that's the right move, man. I really don't. Clearly. Because we ain't gonna get an Exo Man of War movie.
Not at this rate, no.
No, not with this movie. You know, but here's a question, right? This obviously isn't going to be a box office hit or smash because there's
no box office.
It has no box office.
True.
You know, there are rumors that these movies might get released in China, afterwards, you know, like as things clear up, but who knows? So if you're Sony and Valiant, do you sit there and go, all right, well, we can't judge our universe on this movie. We have to go ahead with our next movie. Or do you sit there and go, well, no one liked it, so why move forward?
I think the next couple of weeks are going to determine that. Because, we're about to have an economic downturn. Do you want to throw bad money after good on big, expensive movies? Or do you want to spend money on stuff that's smaller, that costs you less, that could get you more? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a studio thing right now. Nobody has an answer for that.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know.
I don't either. I don't know, but I don't know if the Valiant... I know the dudes who bought Valiant did it with this in mind. Like, this was a long-term game for them to relaunch this universe to make it a big property. But, I mean, the Valiant, even under, it's the weird part about Valiant is it's got this history of these big goals, and it never quite hits. Like, Shooter's Valiant was supposed to be the writer's version of what Image was for artists, right? And then it does well, and it gets bought by Acclaim, and Acclaim does it so they can have a bunch of video games, and then Acclaim wipes everything away from the Valiant universe, does its own thing, and it doesn't quite catch on, and then the characters kind of languish in Nowheresville for the better part of 2 decades. And they relaunched the comic universe, and I was into it at first, but I kind of lost interest after about a year or so. And I don't know if this is just, and then they got bought up, the VC firm that bought them got bought out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just kind of the history of Valiant. It's never really had time to grow and nurture itself, you know?
Yeah. No,
it's kind of a shame.
It's kind of the bad luck of comic book companies. The bad luck Charlie.
Kinda. It's got all this potential, but never really sticks the landing.
Yeah. It's a shame.
I think we've beaten this into the ground.
Do you really?
Pretty much. I mean, between that and every other reviewer on YouTube, I don't think Bloodshot's getting back up. This is going the same way as The Mummy.
Even with the nanites.
Yeah.
Although there's since you mentioned that, there's talk as the Invisible Man movie actually worked, that Universal's jumping right back in and trying to do their MonsterVerse smaller.
Well, they're gonna have to work really hard because, I mean, okay, they made one good one, but if they make the same mistake as they did with The Mummy, Marvel's got Feige, right? So, they've got the guy calling the shots.
So, yeah.
But Universal doesn't seem to have anybody like that. So the next movie, it's a crapshoot.
Well, it's also too. It's the case of this is also. Don't forget, this will be Universal's third attempt to resurrect those series. Cause we all forgot about Dracula Untold.
Oh my God!
Because it was Untold. But that's the thing. It's they keep trying to do this. They keep trying to fashion these what were supposed to be kind of quirky horror movies into these big budget action franchises, and that's never what they were meant to be.
Right, and I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard The Invisible Man works because it feels like in a lot of ways a more old style, low budget horror movie.
It's a $7 million movie, super low budget in this day and age.
Right, and it depends. It leans on suspense a lot more than anything else.
Good. As well, it's The Invisible Man. Like,
right.
It's what it's supposed to be.
Like there are scenes where, like, it's just the main actress in a room. There's no real special effects going on, but just the way she's acting, because she feels like there's somebody in the room, and like, it plays tricks on your mind. And the way
is there a more cost-effective villain than the Invisible Man?
No, I don't think so.
I thought the Invisible Man was supposed to be the same as the guy from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Well, I mean, it's a reinterpretation. But isn't that what they want to do with it? Don't they want to just basically... Isn't that what Universal wants to do? They want their Avengers. They want the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, basically, with monsters. Like, does anybody want to see Frankenstein and the Wolfman and Dracula and all in one movie?
Well, if they were done right, maybe. But, I mean, otherwise, but the way they are doing them, it'll turn into freaking, what was it, Monster Squad.
Which was awesome. Never speak ill of the Monster Squad.
I'm not speaking ill of it. I'm just saying that they're not going to get what they think they're going to get. You know?
I agree with you on that. I don't even know what they think they're going to get, to be honest with you. Like, how do you do an Avengers-style movie with that? It doesn't turn to, like, Van Helsing? That sucked, too.
Yeah.
Even with What's-Her-Face in it, it sucked.
Yeah, I don't know how you...
It's very pretty.
I don't know how you do a crossover movie that people want to watch with these monsters today. You know,
like, I agree. It doesn't make sense. Like, what happened, what Marvel was able to do with Avengers is predicated on 50 years of comics.
Right.
Like, they just don't have that with those monster movies, and they don't have that with the Valiant universe either. It's just, I mean, shit, DC's got it laid out for them, and they can't do it.
This is true. All right. So.
It's a dead horse.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not a horse.
Do we, well, I mean, JD, you're out for this.
5 Z's.
5 Z's. All right. JD gives it 5 Z's. How about you, John? Got a rating and any final thoughts on the movie?
Final thoughts is, again, like, it was interesting to have on while I was doing laundry. That's about the size of it for me. So, any further than that, I don't know. I don't know. I'll give it, I don't have a good rating for this one. I'll just give it 7 capes. 6 capes. Give it 6 capes.
6? Okay.
Six is laundry area. That's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, if you haven't seen it, if you like dumb action movies with no character development, then go ahead and watch it. There's plenty of action in it to entertain you that way. If you want something that feels like a good Marvel movie, this isn't it.
And I'll tell you, there are worse movies out there. Like, there are some that I can't stand even if they're playing in the background and I'll change the channel.
Right.
I wouldn't change the channel on this one.
So maybe wait for Netflix when you can just watch it and see what the non-hype was about. So given that, yeah, I'll agree with John's score. I'll give it a 6 as well. 6 out of 10 capes. So it's meh. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's just there. It's
so mad we couldn't even give it anything other than your standard vanilla capes.
Exactly. So I think that does it for Bloodshot. So before we wrap it up for the week, we got any recommendations for our audience, guys? JD?
Don't listen to Wizard and Glass, the Stephen King book, the 4th book of the Dark Tower, because the part I got to, they walk into the world of The Stand, and I didn't need that right now. Didn't need it. So I put that away. I'm going to give it some time, and I'll pick it up again. Onward. Watch Onward. I really enjoyed it. Cool. I really enjoyed Onward.
I think you need that and, like, SpongeBob right now.
Could be.
Yeah.
We've watched a lot of Teen Titans Go. John's wrong. It's awesome.
There you go. Teen Titans Go and Onward. That'll keep you happy. How about you, John?
I'll piggyback off of JD and say go see Onward. I haven't seen it yet. Read enough about it. I'm going to watch it now because Bloodshot's over. So, I heard that it satisfies like every check mark for every D&D person. Anybody who's ever played Dungeons and Dragons, this will check all your boxes and make you feel good. So which means I'm probably going to watch it tomorrow night.
Well, then based on that recommendation, maybe I'll watch it. We'll talk about it next week.
Why not? I would like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a left turn for our show.
Talk about something.
Exactly.
Left turn, Clyde.
Yeah, I don't have any recommendations other than make sure you're checking out superheroespeak.com and following us on social media so you can participate in Nerd Madness. And, go watch Onward, because we're going to talk about it next week, boys and girls. We're going to review that, and hopefully it goes better than Bloodshot. So on that note, as always, thanks for listening. Don't let your cape get caught in the door. Have a good week.